Alright everyone, welcome back. This is part 3 of Ask the King episode 50. Yes, the big 50 episode anniversary. Today is March 26, 2015. If you didn't see the first two parts, there actually were no burps in the first two parts, I don't think, which may be a first, but they were great. They were full of all kinds of great questions regarding Kojima and Nintendo, all kinds of stuff. Don't miss them. Check out the first two parts. But now let's wrap this up in grand fashion. We got a couple more questions from the forums. Then we've got Patron questions, which the patrons are getting answered specifically because they donated $20 or more in the month of February. And then we're going to go on to Twitter and Facebook. All right? Okay. So here we go. First question of this part. From Mutant Pizza. Cool name. Mutant Pizza asked the following. Hey Phil, I was wondering if you had any plans to do an April Fool's series this year. Or are you so busy with patron commitments and other stuff that definitely I would understand if the series were skipped this year in favor of something else. Keep up the great work. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is that, as you guys know, this year so far has been incredibly busy. Between the new series that I've started, between the editing that I'm now doing in my vlog-style videos and stuff like that, between montages, which, by the way, in the month of March, if you didn't notice, the montages kind of went away because I was focused on other stuff, but there will be a Best of March montage coming up shortly in the next week or two, just so everybody knows, okay? As well as probably for bigger releases like Bloodborne, there'll probably be a montage coming up. But in addition to all of that, yeah, I just really haven't had a lot. I haven't even had time to do Hey Live. And I think a lot of people have been saying, well, Phil, you didn't have time for a Christmas special. That was a little different. That was because my parents were visiting. But a lot of people are wondering, am I going to do an April Fool's special? I'm going to say this. I'm not going to promise you guys anything. But at the same time, I am not going to say yes, that there's definitely something happening. Because the bottom line is, I am booked up until April 1st. Like right now, every single day, up until April 1st, we've got crazy amounts of stuff going on. April 1st is kind of like the first day where we can relax a bit, where I'm not doing a special Patreon thing, you know what I mean? There's not a special event going on, and bottom line is people are dying to see more Bloodborne. They really want to see me play Bloodborne, and I can't even play it that much because I'm busy with everything else. Would it make more sense to just play Bloodborne on April 1st, do maybe a Bloodborne marathon, rather than worry about, well, let's do an April Fool's kind of special that some people will appreciate and others maybe will be angry that I'm not playing Bloodborne? I don't know. I've tried to throw things around these past few years to do stuff for April Fools. I'll think it. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna, like I said, I don't want to promise anything. At the same time, I really don't want to. Excuse me. I don't want to not promise something. We'll see what happens. I have an idea that I want to do, but I don't know how it would turn out. So we'll see. All right. The final forum question is from a gentleman, well, I'm assuming it's a gentleman, by the name of the Mel Gibson, and he asks the following. Hi Phil, when and what kind of DLC do you think is acceptable? With Evolve recently coming out at launch with minimal content in the game and over $100 worth of DLC available to purchase, I think this is the wrong way to approach the business model. However, in the case of Hyrule Warriors, I had a good 40 plus hours worth of content in the base game alone, and assuming that I want to go for all the collectibles and I should stretch that to 60 hours of content, I could if I wanted to. Then, if I wanted to get the DLC, that would add numerous characters, a good 20 hours of content at the minimum, in addition to free content upgrades. So that kind of, to me, seems to be reasonable, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. What DLC is worth a consumer's money? Okay. So, what DLC is worth the consumer's money? That's a good question, right? It's a very good question in this day and age when everything seems to have tons of DLC and not everyone has a lot of money to spend on it, right? So what I'll say is this. DLC is only worth what you're willing to pay for it, and DLC is only worth buying if you feel that there's value added for you. And it's going to be different for every person. Some people maybe bought Evolve, played it and got hooked on the repetition and the addiction of that multiplayer style gameplay and said, I want to spend $100 to buy every skin in the game. It doesn't add anything to the game, no extra abilities, no extra things, but the fact that I can have every skin and my characters will look different, I want that and I'm going to buy them. And you know what? The bottom line is that, you know what? If that is value added to you, then that is a worthy DLC. I don't think for most people that's something that they're willing to do, because let's face it, to have $100 more than the purchase price of the game to spend on optional content that doesn't add anything to the gameplay experience, obviously you must have some kind of exorbitant amount of income or just really excessive amounts of income to spend on stuff that's fluff, right? I think that for most people, a DLC to be worthy of your hard-earned dollar needs to add something overall to the gameplay experience. But in my opinion, now this is my personal opinion, it shouldn't be something that should have been included in that core experience. Now here's a perfect example, ladies and gentlemen. BioShock Infinite. BioShock Infinite was a game that at its core, its plot line, right, was excellent. It tied into the previous BioShock titles. It gave us a whole new perspective on BioShock, and it was a fun story on its own, and it had an ending. It actually had a fun ending. And it was a kind of a little loophole cliffhanger kind of an ending, but it was still a good ending. And if it had ended right there, if it had never continued, you know what I mean? If it had never continued, then it would have been left alone and good. Now, if you chose to, later on, there were 2 DLC story packs that was a what-if scenario. What if, right? Somehow, the Rapture and Columbia, the 2 locations of the 2 plot lines of the BioShock games, somehow intersected. What if there was a crossover, there was a rift between the dimensions where you could go between, and what if Elizabeth was present in both? And it is kind of a what-if scenario, and you could choose whether or not you want to decide if that's a canon story or not, because guess what? The game's over. They already said that was the last BioShock content ever to be put out. They're moving on to other projects, and the team was disbanded. It's not necessary for you to buy that content. It's not. You could have a full gameplay of really a good feeling of conclusion if you just played BioShock Infinite, and if you never experience those DLCs, it's fine. But if you did, it's cool because it's kind of for the super fan. You know what I mean? Linking to the original games, more content, more gameplay, excellent story. So for me, if it's something that adds to a game that already by itself is worth that price tag, then it's a legitimate DLC. I think another good example would be in, was it Dead Space 2? I believe Dead Space 2 had 1 or 2 good DLCs that came out after it. You didn't have to play them. They were optional characters, side characters from the main game that you didn't really need to know whatever happened to them or what their stories were. But if you really liked the gameplay of Dead Space and you played those DLCs, then it added to the overall experience. But you didn't have to. You didn't miss out. The problem today is that these game developers are looking to get the $60 initial purchase from you and then suck more money from you just to finish the game. You should not have to pay money to get the true ending of a game. You should get the real ending with the retail game, and then if you choose to get additional what's the word? I can't think of the word. It's something it's surrounding you, but it's not the main focus. Periphery content. That's periphery content. You know what I mean? That's the problem, is that they're not doing that. Think about, in years past here, games that I played like Azura's Wrath didn't have the real ending unless you bought the DLC. And recently there have been other games like that. Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy games as of late haven't had real endings. You had to buy the ending in DLC. It's garbage. It's not right. So if you can get cool extra content, if you can get something that maybe is extra to what the original experience of the game should have been by spending more money, great, but that you can still get a fulfilling experience just by playing that core vanilla experience, then DLC, I think, is worthy. But when you have games that are coming out that don't even have enough content to support 8 hours of unique gameplay, but they're selling you hundreds of dollars of DLC at launch, that's fucking bullshit. Okay. Next question. This one, now we're heading to the Patreon questions. So the following questions are direct results of people who pledged to my Patreon in the month of February. If you'd like to get your questions answered like these guys and gals, you can pledge. I believe it's the $20 perk, $20 or more right now for the month of March, and you'll get your questions answered in next month's Ask the King. Okay? So the first one is from Super Skull 85, and he says, whatever happened to playing an MMO as an ongoing playthrough? I believe that you started Marvel Heroes with John, but that didn't turn out very well. There are many free MMOs now that have some popularity. If not as regular content, would you consider this as a possible Patreon goal in the future? Even if you just played the story of the MMO that you pick, I'd like to see how you might play them. That's an interesting, a very interesting point. MMOs have really evolved. When I see, it's funny because to me, when I think MMO, I think World of Warcraft, I think EverQuest. I know, as old as that shit is, I think EverQuest. That's the kind of thing that I see in my mind as an MMO, because that was kind of when MMOs became big. And let's face it, World of Warcraft's still one of, if not the biggest MMO there is. But there's been so many more kinds of MMOs that have been released since then that really I don't really almost acknowledge, because it's kind of not part of my gaming world. I'd say the closest was City of Heroes and City of Villains that I played in the mid-2000s. I loved those games, but since then, there hasn't been an MMO that really gripped me and made me want to play it, alright? Now, let's say that there was an MMO that came. Let's say that out of the blue, Blizzard decided to release another World of Warcraft 2. We're finally moving on from the first game. It's going to be amazing. I would consider playing it. The problem is, unfortunately, I hate to say it, a lot of the great MMOs aren't on console. And right now, my capture and streaming setup, if I capture and stream a PC game, unless it's like a lower requirement game, it lags and doesn't look good. If you remember last year, I tried to play The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I couldn't play the game, capture it, and stream it at the same time without frame rate issues. I just couldn't do it. It wouldn't work. And I had to end up playing it off stream because of that. Just recently, Minecraft, if you can believe it, has massive frame rate issues. And it actually pushes my processor to its limits to play the game, capture it, and stream it at the same time. It doesn't let, that's the way the game was designed. So for me to play an MMO that's PC-based while streaming and capturing, I can't do it. So I'd have to completely get a new PC just for the streaming and capturing so I could play the game on my current PC, and I don't have money for that, let's face it. And for the limited amount that I get use out of that, it's not worth it. So if you're talking MMO, I can't do it right now on PC. Now, if you're talking about one on a console, for example, Final Fantasy XIV. When it was released a couple years ago, it was a massive flop. People hated it. Then they fixed it, supposedly, improved the game massively, and now some people really like it. And that's on PlayStation 4, from what I'm to understand. Now, people would say, Phil, we'd like to see an ongoing playthrough of Final Fantasy XIV, or at least you sink your teeth into it a little bit as a weekly series. I consider doing it. And he even specifically, Super Skull says, as a Patron series. Sure. If Patreon donors wanted to see that and they nominated it and it won a vote, I would absolutely do it. Right now, there's nothing, honestly, going on with MMOs that really blows me away. You know what I mean? Like, there has not been an MMO, a definitive MMO, that people have said, Phil, this MMO is above all others. You should absolutely fucking play it. It's so good, you should do it. The other thing is, let's face it, MMOs are time sinks. So for me to do an MMO, even if I were to play World of Warcraft right now, start a new build or whatever and start playing the game, you don't really get into the end game content for how many hours of gameplay. And if I'm playing it once a week, it's going to take me 2 years to even get anywhere in it. You know what I mean? Those MMOs are made to be, that's the game you play. And it's supposed to be your social interaction with people in it. It's meant to be, a massive amount of time investment. It's what you do in your free time to relax. And I fully understand that. When I used to play City of Villains and City of Heroes, those games were the ways that I could relax with people, playing it with them and cooperate with them online. It was a lot of fucking fun. But I don't have that free time anymore. My free time is my work time. You know what I mean? Like, when I'm playing games, I'm doing it for YouTube. Do you want to see 400 hours of World of Warcraft gameplay and me play nothing else so that I can get to the end game? Probably not. So, there you have it. You know what I mean? It's funny, the MMOs that I tried, like, remember I tried Defiance, and what a shitty game that was? So, if there were a game that people said, this is a unique experience, it's fun, you absolutely need to try it, everyone's trying it, I would. I haven't seen that yet. In fact, if I were to do an MMO right now, it would probably either be World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, but no one's telling me drop everything and play those games, therefore MMOs right now are nowhere on the schedule. But again, Patreon could change that, we'll see. Alright, next question, this one is from Dooley2684, another patron. His question is, hey Phil, a couple days ago, Sony released info on Project Morpheus. It seems like they're really investing a lot of time and money in the VR headset. On paper, it looks like impressive hardware. Also, a vast majority of people who've already experienced Morpheus are very optimistic about it. I, however, still have my doubts. My question is, what is your opinion on VR gaming? Do you think that it'll be a success, or are we just not ready for the next step? Would you consider doing playthroughs of VR games? Honestly, kind of already gave my opinion on this many times. I think that VR gaming is just like 3D TVs, is just like motion controls, is just like everything else. A gimmick. And it's a gimmick that the common gamer does. Does the common gamer who already spent $300 to $400 on their console now want to spend $300 to $400 on this giant fucking headset they have to glue to their head, which will probably give neck strain and eye strain? Oh, it's virtual reality. It's another gimmick. I don't think we have enough great games for our fucking regular TVs yet to care about virtual reality. I'm just saying. I think that these companies are jumping the gun and they're going to the next step of technology before we have enough of the current level of technology just because they can. And I think that the Oculus Rift, the Morpheus are a waste of time. I really do. And that's just my honest opinion. Now, I could be wrong. And I might be proven wrong like I have been in the past with other things. However, Dooley asks, would I do playthroughs of VR games? How would I do that? You're not talking a standard screen where you can rip the video. You're probably talking incredibly high resolution, extra wide screen, almost panorama style video, right? I don't even know. How could you rip that video? How could you put that on YouTube? I don't think you could. If the capability happened and I could rip it, maybe I would consider doing it. But at this point, I don't think that that's even going to be, quite honestly, something that is going to be what Let's Players are going to be doing. I think that's something that the very elitist people who can either afford the technology, right, or the big YouTubers who are going to probably get it for free, so they'll promote it for free, they'll love it, and everyone else is going to be like, I'm still fucking playing my PS4. I don't care about this. But I could be completely wrong. We'll see what happens. All right. Next question is from Wilts11. He's also a patron. He has two questions, but they're kind of quick ones. The first one is, since becoming a full-time YouTuber, what would you say is your biggest achievement has been so far? The thing is, Wilts, I don't gauge achievements like other people do. When I reached 50,000 subs, we didn't have a 50,000 sub celebration where graffiti fell from the sky and I did some silly gimmick or something, you know what I mean? When I hit 1 million views, I didn't do double backflips and all. I don't have those kind of milestones. I don't feel that those are milestones. You want to know what my milestone is? When I get a message from a YouTuber telling me that they had a shitty day, a viewer telling me they had a shitty day and they watched my content and it put a fucking smile on their face. When someone tells me that they were an awful thing happened to them, but they were able to watch me jump in, play the latest game, and they were entertained, they were distracted from whatever it was that was bringing them down. When I get a message from someone that said, Phil, I really was looking forward to this overhyped game. I watched your review, and after hearing the truth about your experience, I'm not getting it. I'm going to put my money towards this other game that I was thinking about. But by the way, I bought that game. That game was amazing. Thank you so much for giving me that informative review rather than me rushing out believing the hype and wasting my money on a stinky turd. Those are my milestones. And the good thing about having milestones like that is they fucking happen every day. Versus me saying, oh, my next goal is when I gain another 20,000 subscribers and I make this amount of money. I'm sure there are YouTubers that said, when I made my first million, that was my milestone. I'm never going to make $1 million in a year doing this. Let's face it, there's no way. There's absolutely no fucking way with the amount of negativity about me out there on the internet that I'm ever going to make $1 million on YouTube. But I'm happy with the fact that people are getting use out of my content, whether it's entertainment, distraction, information, and the fact that I'm able to get that feedback. It makes me feel great, and that's my milestone. That's my most eventful thing. Not anything about moving or a number or anything like that, okay? Wilt's second question. Have you ever regretted anything since joining YouTube or any improvements that you would have liked to have implemented sooner? I mean, sure, everyone's going to have regrets. And my regrets are something, sometimes I talk out of my ass. I'm misinformed about a subject or uninformed about a subject, especially Ask the King. It's happened. Remember way back when I talked about Minecraft for the first time, I knew nothing about the game and based just on what I was being told in Ask the King, which was misinformation. I totally talked out of my ass. Of course I regret that. I regret getting angry at certain times of certain things that are going on, and then I go on Twitter and I say something stupid or I insult someone, and then everyone gets all up in arms and furious with something that I said. You know what I mean? But I've been around the block, right? I've been doing this for over 6 years now, and the bottom line is it's going to happen. When you've made over 30,000 videos, when you've made how many hundreds of hours of vlogs, you're going to have things that are going to upset people and things that people will isolate to make you look bad. And so there's nothing, if anything, ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that I would take back definitively is if I was ever really mean to someone. And what I mean by that is in that initial series of videos called Friend Request Ridicule that people still tell me to bring back, and I say I'm never going to do it because it was too mean-spirited. At that point, I didn't understand this whole YouTube phenomenon. I wasn't even taking it seriously. Remember, I started making those videos before I ever made $1 doing it. And to see people flood my inbox on Xbox Live and then later on PSN with messages when I specifically say, I don't accept friend requests, don't spam my inbox with messages, all over my YouTube page it says it, all over everything it says it, people still did it. I thought they deserve it because they asked for it by doing it. I now think that that was wrong because I think there were a lot of kids in particular, right, who watched my stuff on YouTube, were inspired by it, loved it, and said, I want to just message this guy and say something. And they would send me a message, and a lot of them maybe couldn't even spell. Maybe a lot of them, English wasn't even their first language. And I blatantly insulted them on video. And I look back at those videos today, and I say, you know what? Those are pretty mean-spirited. They really were. A lot of those were me just being a dick. And yeah, it's funny, but that's not who I want to be. If I continued to be a dick like that, I probably would have gotten more YouTube famous, right? In fact, I would almost say it was around the year of 2012 when I started to listen to more viewer feedback, when I started to interact more with my viewers, when I started to honestly become a better person overall and grow and try out new things. That's when I lost my popularity. Because people don't want to have someone who learns, who's funny. They want train wrecks. They want someone who's going to rant and rave and insult people like a dick. That's why reality TV is so popular. Because those people are fucking complete wastes of life, but they're so stupid to watch that you laugh at it, and that's what people, I think, are looking for. They're not looking for someone who's legitimate, who's going to grow, and that's the shame. Now, the good news is, if you're watching this video right now, you're not one of those mainstream people who want to see a train wreck. You're probably interested in watching someone with legitimate concerns and thoughts, and you like the fact that I've grown over the years. The bottom line is, you know, that's not what mainstream America, that's not what the world wants, I guess. But that's where I've gone, and I wouldn't take that back for the world, the fact that I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. Okay? All right. One more. Humga-chan asked the following, another patron, by the way. This is a weird question. When you go to bed, do you dream? And if you do, what kind of strange or surreal dreams do you have? And also, how much of your dream do you remember when you wake up? It varies for me. Sometimes I'll have vivid dreams that I can fully remember when I wake up. Other times, I'll have dreams that I can't remember at all when I wake up. I think the other day I had a dream where I was still in my parents' house, and my cousin, my second cousin, who was very close to my age, was there, and the house was on fire. As stupid as that sounds, I think that was the dream that I had. Now, sometimes I have terrible dreams about monsters and things, zombies and vicious things trying to kill me. Sometimes I have dreams about falling. A lot of people have that dream. You're falling and you can't stop yourself from falling. You know what I mean? There's just, you know, weird stuff that you dream about. And I think there's a lot of factors. It depends on what's on your mind, right? What's going on subconsciously in your mind, what you eat before you go to sleep, what how tired you are. I've had crazy ass dreams. But you know, for the most part, I don't let them get to me. Usually when I wake up, I don't even focus on it. A lot of people, they wake up, oh, I can't shake this dream. I usually don't even think about it. I move on to my day. That's how I treat my dreams, because a dream is a dream. It's a subconscious thing. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to translate to something in the real world. And you shouldn't really put too much time or effort into it, in my opinion, anyway. Okay? Someone said Freddy Krueger. Some people said Kojima. I have never had a dream about Hideo Kojima. I can confirm that. I did have dreams about Freddy Krueger when I was a kid. All right. This is the final Patreon question from a patron, Ultimate Mega Hero. I want to say special thanks to God Revan, who helped him kind of consolidate and edit his thoughts, because apparently originally his question was like 47 paragraphs and was unreadable. So he has two questions. We're going to try to get through them here. Number one, given the success of Minecraft, a game that for so long you've slandered about with any sufficient knowledge or reason to do so, well, I guess that is kind of true. Now you seem to be enjoying it. Will you finally give the wonderful 101 a chance? This was a game from Platinum game developer Hideki Kamiya. If you don't know who that is, he's the creator of other popular games like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Okami, Beautiful Joe, and Resident Evil 2. Shinji Mikami actually didn't direct Resident Evil 2. He says that Kamiya and Mikami were both two of Capcom's best designers. It wouldn't even be a stretch to say they were involved, indeed, in the backbone of the old good Capcom. Neither have either of these guys ever made a bad game. Will you please give the title a chance during downtime, especially since it's the only good use of the Wii U gamepad on the system? The bottom line is, I skipped Wonderful 101, and when I do, I think a lot of people took it the wrong way. They thought that I was saying that the game was bad, that the game wasn't worth anyone's time. That's actually not the point I was making. The point I made about the Wonderful 101 is a point that 100% was confirmed when the game didn't sell anywhere outside of Japan. The game is insanely Japanese-centric. It follows Japanese culture, Japanese kind of stereotypes, anything you would... It's one of the most insanely Japanese games I've ever seen in my life. I watched a trailer of the Wonderful 101, and it looked terrible to me. Like, nothing about the game appealed. Little chibi-like characters doing silly things as cartoon. I was like, what appeal does this have to me? I don't live in Japan. I didn't grow up with that culture. So for me, why do I want to play this game? And I think that was the failure of the game, was it failed to try to appeal to an audience outside of its core in Japan. And the game did not sell well. The game was a huge flop for Nintendo for being a first-party title like that, and it tanked. So, in that regard, again, did I not play the game because I thought it was bad? No, it didn't appeal to me. Would I try out the Wonderful 101 today? No, because it doesn't appeal to me. Now, some people might say, but Phil, Minecraft at first didn't appeal to you, right? But then when you actually tried it, you realized it was pretty good. That's a fair enough point. But Minecraft didn't not appeal to me because of the graphics or the design. I don't care that the game is blocky. I thought that the game had an open world that really had no point to it, and at that time, I wasn't open to those experiences. I wanted a definitive game with an ending and a story and characters that develop, and now I'm a more diversified gamer where I can understand that games that don't have that can still be good. So I could be completely wrong with Wonderful 101, but I don't like it. I look at it still, and I watch the trailer, I say, no thank you. Okay? Question number two. From Ultimate Mega Hero. He says, I know you've stated numerous times in the past you do not create elite master level playthroughs, but would you ever consider revisiting titles where fans weren't entirely satisfied with a playthrough? For example, Resident Evil Remake, you played it on easy difficulty by accident, or your Devil May Cry 3 playthrough. During the playthrough of DMC3, you wasted all of your orbs and healing buffs on health items, spamming the same 3-hit technique over and over during the course of the game. You never once purchased any moves or upgrades. You just looked at or even looked at the game's command list, which gave other video tutorials on how to do things. In short, it wasn't that fun of a watch. Would you consider revisiting titles like these and going even further, or doing so on harder difficulties? Possibly as a Patreon goal, maybe. It would be very refreshing and interesting to see you do a non-typical playthrough, as you never play any games above standard difficulty on your channel. That's a fair point. The bottom line is, I know my limitations, you know what I mean? And I know that as a gamer who missed an entire era and generation of games, in particular the DMC series I never played until recently, right? That I am not going to be creating master level playthroughs or master level content. It would take so much dedication, hard work, you know what I mean, to even get to a level like that, playing a game over and over for me to get the hand-eye coordination and to learn the little intricacies of a game to do that, all right? So, no, you're right. My normal content is always standard level difficulty. I'm absolutely aware that there's playthroughs that I've done over the years. I mean, come on. How many people got pissed at me playing Metal Gear Solid so shittily, right? But that's not, and again, that's never been my appeal. I don't think that there's very many gamers out there who would say, I want to see Phil do a master level run of Metal Gear Solid 2 now that he's done a really terrible, shitty run of it. I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like, I think that my appeal is at seeing someone who has almost little to no exposure to the games that they're playing through them, honestly, for the first time, seeing honest reactions to things happening in the game. That's what you want to see. If you want to see someone do expert level playthroughs, there's other people who that's all they do. You know what I mean? Now, I am going to say something here. One of the statements made in this question, you completely wasted your orbs on healing buffs and health items and spamming the same technique over and over. You didn't purchase any upgrades or watch the video tutorials. I'm going to tell you right now, that is not even a correct statement. Even though it's your opinion, it's a wrong statement of fact. I did not waste all my orbs on those upgrades, because guess what? I beat the game. So regardless of the fact that I beat a game, not maybe the way that you wanted to see me beat it, I still fucking beat it. You know what I mean? And yeah, maybe I was plugging a square peg into a round hole, but eventually the peg fucking ripped apart and fit into the hole, and I completed the task. So it's not anyone's business to say that there's a right or wrong way to do it when I beat it. You know what I mean? I was terrible at Metal Gear, but I beat the games. So really, if you're going to say you do it wrong, then I shouldn't have been able to succeed at it. See what I'm saying? I play the games in my own unique way and style. Just recently, I played a game, yesterday actually, called Life is Strange Episode 2. And as a direct result of some of my choices, things happened in the game that are going to permanently affect the rest of the game. And there were people in the stream chat flipping out, Phil, you got to go back. You've got to replay it. You fucked up. You screwed up. You did it wrong. But then people were like, wait a minute, no. The game is meant that whatever choices you make affect it, and the game continues. You didn't do it wrong, you just did it maybe differently than what may be the morally acceptable way, or the way that most people will do it. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. Now, it may mean that not a lot of people want to see it, but it's not wrong. Just because I beat Devil May Cry 3 by doing all health power-ups and doing a 3-hit combo doesn't mean it's the wrong way. It just means it's a different way. And yeah, there's going to be people who are like, but there's a better way, the elitist way, the master way. But that's when you have to start having an open mind and realize not everyone's the same. Not everyone's going to do things the same way. And the bottom line is, this is the truth about life, which you'll find. Some people will find ways to do things that other people never would have fathomed, right? Maybe someone would never think that you could do something in a certain way. I'm sure I found ways to beat things in games that other people never imagined because it's not the main way, but I still did it. And that's creativity, and that's how you get variety and creativity. Variety and creativity, even if it's not the morally mainstream acceptable way to do it, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Right? There's not a definitive yes, no, right, wrong. There's not black, white. There's many shades of gray. Not 50 shades, many more shades of gray in the world. And so I honestly think that the question is kind of a bigoted one. Is that this is, Ultimate Mega Hero is a huge fan of Devil May Cry 3. He had preconceived notions of how the game's supposed to be played. And when he saw my playthrough, he thought I didn't do it per those preconceived notions and therefore equates to wrong. And I completely philosophically disagree with that, 100%. So the real final part here is he's saying, would I ever consider going back and doing master level playthroughs as a Patreon goal? Listen, the thing about Patreon is Patreons can choose this kind of stuff, right? This first month of February, no one nominated anything like that. No one nominated MMOs. No one did any of that. It's always possible, but that's how you can get that stuff kind of up there for something that maybe isn't mainstream and everyone wants to see. Yeah, becoming a Patreon or a patron and, contributing to things like patrons choose it playthroughs. That's how you can get that kind of stuff done. I'm not saying it's ever going to happen. I'm just saying it's nothing that I would choose to do actively because I don't think that's me and that's not how I enjoy games, doing a master level playthrough. Unless it's something like from my childhood that I know how to do it at a master level. Okay? Alright, so quick questions from Twitter and Facebook to end the episode. From the Skull Rider, he says, what's your opinion on talentless developers abusing Steam early access to make a quick buck on how should Steam handle this? I don't know much about Steam early access. From what I understand, you can release games on there that aren't even done or not even good, and people get fooled, think, oh, early access, it sounds like a cool thing. It's kind of like a fad on Steam right now. You pay your money for early access, you play the game, it's horribly broken, or it just sucks, or it's not what it says it is. All I could say is this, consumer beware, because shame on you for buying into it. Why are people buying incomplete games? People have told me you should buy this incomplete game and play it. Why? It's not done. I can wait for it to be done. It'll be a better game. Why do I have to rush to play it now? I don't understand that. Just because it becomes some kind of a meme or a viral fad on YouTube, that doesn't mean I have to fucking play it. I'll wait for it to be done. Okay. Next question from Meth Rollins. He says, are you still planning on doing your app review and walkthrough series? Haven't heard word on it since you finished up with WWE Supercard. Yeah, I mean, I bought the HDMI dongle for my iPad and iPhone, and originally I was going to do a walkthrough for WWE Supercard, and after playing that for a few months and getting really addicted to it, I decided to stop playing it. Now I'm playing WWE Immortals right now. It's not a great game. It plays similar to Injustice did on the iPhone and iPad previously. Then coming up next month, we've got the Mortal Kombat 10 app, which is supposed to play just like that. Could I do videos of this stuff? Absolutely. Do people want to see videos of that stuff? I don't know. I never got an overwhelming request. Phil, please, you got to make these iPhone and iPad game walkthroughs. We want them. You know what I mean? It was a cool idea I had for variety's sake, but now it seems I've got all this other stuff going on for variety's sake, excuse me, that I don't have the time to do it. So if there was demand for it, yes, but there's no demand for it right now. Very limited demand, so I'm not really enticed to take time out to make these videos of gameplay of, you know, iOS games or whatever. iOS games. Next question is from Connor Glidemeister. And he says, if it was voted on by your Patreons, DSP Plays It goal, would you do gameplay of fighting games you skipped or missed out on? Yes! That's the point of the Patreon goal, that you vote and you nominate and then you vote on a game that I would play that normally I wouldn't play. Yeah, all these people asked. I got like 4 questions about that this episode. Yes, but that's the thing. You need to actually become a patron, nominate it, and have people vote on it, and then I'll play it. Okay? Next question from Random Ron. He says, hey Phil, I've been watching your videos since Skyrim. Although you weren't as great in quality as direct capture back then, I did like your old playthrough, as it had this kind of almost surround sound quality to it in the background due to your camera. I understand times have changed since recording from a camcorder, and I agree that you must adapt, but I have to ask, do you ever miss your old recording style? You know, I've answered this question before, and I'll reiterate it again. There are things that I miss, and there are things that I don't miss. I miss the fact that in my old recording style, I could lean back on the couch like this, I had surround sound around me, and I could relax, and I don't have to worry about, oh, you can't hear me because I'm too far away from the mic, or, oh, my headphone cord now tugged, and I'm too far, I gotta lean forward because of the headphones, and, you know, before I was live streaming, right, and I was using a camera, I didn't have to constantly be checking the stream chat. Is everything going on? Is the stream still working? I didn't have to worry about that stuff before that, right? It was just me, more relaxed atmosphere than I do right now, quite honestly, not worrying too much, and just kind of leaning back and playing the game casually. And then things changed because people said, Phil, the quality of your camera is not good enough. The visual quality looks like shit. The colors are washed out. You're only doing 720p. People always complained about the audio, saying a lot of games they couldn't hear the audio. It was always echoing because the room, massive echo. And so now, what do I like better about direct capture? I like the fact that the videos look amazing. They're easy for editing. You can easily hear everyone. The audio quality is better, right? Overall, I could do more things with it. On the fly, right now with Ask the King, I got this cool border. I could go transition between different things as I'm doing it on the fly, right? I love the live streaming aspect. I love the fact that I've seen people reacting, you know, during the stream today. People in the stream chat talking and doing different stuff. All that stuff, to me, is very valuable and it's a cool addition. But I do miss the fact that it used to be, well, I'm just going to play a game, and it's just going to be me playing the game with the camera hooked up, and let's do this. That was kind of the attitude I had, and within 10 minutes, I could easily start. Now it's like, well, now they're set up, and I have to get the headphones, and I have to get the stream going, and I have to do the stream chat, and it's a lot more complicated. It's a hell of a lot more work. I don't think a lot of people understand that. What I used to do versus what I do now today for business it's incredibly more difficult to do what I do it today this way. So do I miss that old setup? Absolutely, but I think it was necessary for evolution. I don't think that it would have succeeded. In fact, if I had kept that camera and kept going in 2012, 2013, the way I'm doing, you know what I mean, like up to now, I think I would have been gone. I think I would have become a relic. I don't think anyone would have cared about me anymore, and I think that my business would have crashed around maybe 2014. And I think that the fact that I did upgrade and, you know, that I did improve myself over the years is the reason why I'm still here. All right? The final question, and then I'm going to go on break because my voice is killing me. Well, not on break. I'm going to end the show, basically. I'm going to go have dinner. I'm starving. This one's from Wesley Aaron Canty. And he says, hey, Phil, I recently turned 21, and I've been enjoying newfound freedom to buy alcohol whenever I want to, although I have drank too much sometimes and ended up almost looking like a total idiot or almost doing something incredibly dumb. My question to you is, do you have any extreme stories where you got extremely hammered at any time in your life, and did it ever lead to you doing something stupid? Yeah. And I think everyone's going to have those kind of stories, you know what I mean? I already told everyone the story about me getting drunk and then smoking weed at the same time and getting really sick and basically shitting and vomiting my brains out for a while. So I won't tell that story. I got a few. I got one where I went to a coworker's wedding. And at this coworker's wedding, I was so drunk that when the maid of honor took the garter belt off of her leg and threw it, and the guys are supposed to like go for it. I apparently did an amazing basketball-like leap over everyone's head, snatch as if I was rebounding like Rodman or something, right? I jumped up and grabbed the garter belt. I couldn't think of the name of it, and I was like, yeah, like I was all pumped about it for some reason. I don't really understand it, but obviously it didn't work because I haven't been married yet. I mean, I remember a time, and this was like when I was newly 21. No, actually I was 23, if I remember correctly. I had a internship, and actually that's an internship that I could do. I could do a full story about this internship on a Back in the Day segment of Hate Live, and I think that next time that I do a Hate Live, I will do this as a segment. But a little snippet, I remember getting so drunk on this internship. They flew us to Milwaukee, of all places, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to train to sell life insurance at this conference. And we went out drinking one night, and I got so drunk that I was trying to hit on like one of the main people in the company. She was like kind of like the second in command at our office or whatever. But she was like I think she was like early 30s at the time. I was like mid 20s, like I said, like 22, 24. And she was maybe like 30, 32, I think. And I was hitting on her. And eventually she just kept telling me she had a boyfriend. But I was so drunk, I didn't really know what was going on. And I left the party that we were at, and I got lost in the hotel. I was so drunk. I got lost in the hotel stairwell for like an hour. I don't know where I was. I was so drunk. And then I finally found the party again. I was like, holy fuck, thank God. I was so lost. I have so many stories of like that kind of stuff. And that should be one I'm definitely going to tell you guys the full story of on a future Hate Live. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this episode of Ask the King. It's been a very long one. I thank you guys once again, as usual, for your great questions. I do have one final thing to do, which is a thank you to all the patrons who donated to me in the month of February and get a verbal shout out. I'm going to do that right now. Jelsi1973, Zachary Reyes, Tom Dooley, Malawan, Chev427BB, Thomas, Hank Duma, Fathian13, Hoi Ha, Tristan McCann, David, Sayup Lee, Krishan, GL, Brandon Cole, Avenge7X, or Woe Moses, I don't know what he wants to be known by, Thomas Wells, Joseph Harrell, Ultimate Mega Hero, Blaine Mayo, Matt McIntyre, Trevor Say, Kazi, Adam Volpe, Ace Gamer 87, Trakuma, Jason Kurth, Rex Lamb, Donald Russell, Michael Hines, Sammy Samosa, Joe Wiltshire, Miguel Aguilar, Super Skull 85, Kay Gallion, Alexander Helm. Thanks so much. Guys, I hope that you will consider, if you haven't, pledging to my Patreon for the month of March. With all the great goals, I want to basically improve my audio quality, ladies and gentlemen. And I need your support to do that. I can't afford to do it right now. So it's a great goal. It's the top goal, but I need as little as $1 helps. The goal with Patreon, get the maximum amount of people to donate the littlest. So if I can get 1,000 people to donate $1 a month, I'm golden. The problem is right now I've got about 100 people who are donating some large amounts. I'd like to have a bunch of people giving a little bit, and we'll be golden, all right? Please consider patreon.com/darksidefil. The final plug, my girlfriend's business, The Black Current, launched about 1 month ago. It's been pretty successful this first month. If you're into things like handmade soap, meltable wax tarts, think about presents for your mom, your sister, your girlfriend, any of your loved ones, or if you're a dude who wants to use soap, that's way freaking better than what you buy at the store. Check it out. It's etsy.com/shop/The Black Current, spelled CURRANT. It's definitely worth a look. She had about 20 sales this past month, the first month, and nothing but positive feedback and reviews. So I hope that you guys will check it out. Again, especially with holidays like Mother's Day and stuff coming up, it's a great gift idea, okay? That's it for Ask the King, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out. Oops.